So I'm going to do this as live. I'm Mary Ellen Geist, and I'm with Detroit Public Television's Great Lakes Bureau, greatlakesnow.org. You just gave a wonderful presentation here at the 15th Annual Great Lakes Restoration Conference. First time I've ever been to Buffalo, beautiful city. Tell me just a little bit more about your relationship with Buffalo. Have you lived here your whole life?
Lived here my whole life. I've lived its history, I've taught its history, I've studied its history, and now I'm committed to its future as a member of the United States Congress. And I'm here to testify about the effectiveness of the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. And I think as you make your way around Buffalo and you see how our waterways have been cleaned up and how our development along the waterfront has progressed, Buffalo is a national model for land and water reclamation at a time when, 30 years ago, the consequences were very dire and there was not a lot of hope. But I think with some guts, I think with some vision and some hard work, we have made major progress. But I would always, caution people, never become complacent because momentum doesn't do you any good unless it can be sustained over a long period of time. So Buffalo's waterfront, much like Detroit, much like Michigan and Ohio and those cities along the waterfront and the riverfronts, those places were abused by reckless industrial activity that dumped toxic chemicals into our waterways. And taxpayers have paid dearly, not only in terms of life quality, but also financially as well. But the good thing is, in the 10 years since the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative program was funded by Congress, we have seen tens of millions of dollars coming into our community. And it's produced a lot of private sector investment. It's created a once industrial working waterfront that was severely polluted into a recreational waterfront, which is giving this city and that river new life.
We are looking at a rather unusual time right now with federal funding, with what's going on in Washington. Do you have hope for more projects like this? I mean, some of the presenters today talked about threats to GLRI and federal funding and whether they can continue. Do you have hope for the future of the Great Lakes?
Well, I do, but we have to be vigilant. That funding was threatened severely by an administration that has no appreciation for the environment. They're either ignorant or they're indifferent. Regardless of what it is, it adds up to the same problem, and that is inattention to the problems that need to be addressed. So I would say, as I mentioned to the crowd today, that the great movements, including and especially the environmental movement, didn't come from Washington. It came from communities like Buffalo, like Detroit, like Chicago, that demanded that the federal government, Democrats and Republicans, respond to an environment that was severely damaged. And the following year, 7 major pieces of environmental legislation were signed into law: the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act. And that was a direct result of people demanding that Washington act. So I think we can look at history and view that what occurred in the early 70s as instructive about what needs to be done today.
You said something that really struck me. You said our infrastructure in the U.S. is a disgrace. And you did some comparisons of costs, and you offered up a plan for some new costs. Can you talk about that Afghanistan comparison and cost?
Yeah, I have a bill in Congress that would invest $1 trillion in infrastructure. We should actually be doing $2 trillion, and that is $1 trillion for the infrastructure that you can see, roads and bridges, but also $1 trillion for the infrastructure you can't see, but we depend on, and that's water systems and sewer systems, because with combined sewer overflows in places like Buffalo, those waters are being re-polluted. So, we spend billions of dollars, $180 billion combined for infrastructure investment. The problem is it's in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we need to spend a lot more money to nation build, not there, but here at home. And it will take a significant investment over a 5-year period. And I think $2 trillion will simply bring our infrastructure to a state of good repair. So we should get on it, because obviously the White House is not leading in that regard.
Thank you so much, Congressman, for taking the time to talk with us at greatlakesnow.org.